series taking the world by storm. Yesterday, Netflix revealed that Squid Game has become their most-watched TV show of all time.
The South Korean drama has had more than 111 million views since its debut less than 4 weeks ago, knocking Bridgerton off the top spot.
But not sure this is the one for me. Sam Rubin's joining us now with everything you need to know about the global phenomenon.
So we'll also be speaking to Dr Nilufar Ahmed, who is urging parents to stop their children from watching the show. Sam, it's rated 15. There are warnings of sex, violence and suicide. The violence is extreme. Tell us what's going on over there.
It is absolutely extraordinary. Talk about Face Your Fears Day. Phillip and Holly, good morning to the two of you. And I tell you what, it is phenomenally popular, but I don't think you can overstate how blood-curdling, how bloody, how extraordinarily violent. I don't think that I can recall anything as, what I'll describe, my own view, is upsettingly as violent as Squid Game is. The violence comes in surprising fashion, but in very, very gruesome fashion. And as you said, Phillip, a heavily edited promo, indeed that was, because that tape does not really depict what the show depicts, which is the loss of human life in some absolutely extraordinary ways. That being said, people all around the world have really taken to this show.
Well, I mean, it's not Bridgerton I mean, you couldn't get two more shows that are so completely different, could you? That used to have the top spot, and now it is this. Recently, we have seen sort of programmes coming in from all over the country. This one isn't English-speaking. I mean, they have dubbed it. There is a dubbed version, or you can watch it with subtitles if you want to hear it in the original voice. We're becoming more open to this, aren't we?
Well, one thing that Netflix can absolutely be credited for is it is this global service, and while it is localized in certain places around the world, Narcos, which is one of the very best series on Netflix, of course, is almost entirely in Spanish. Lupin, which is absolutely fantastic, is almost entirely in French. And if you watch the show, and Phillip, I know you have, I have found that it is even more effective in the original Korean with the subtitles. So what I think has happened here is that this idea, and there was a huge idea in television, that people would never accept something that was so foreign it wasn't in our native language. This has proven that is definitely not true. You're right, Holly, much more open to it.
Well, I've watched it from beginning to end. I'm going to say I absolutely loved it. I thought it was original and unique, and it is truly traumatizing and very violent. And as far as watching it is concerned, if you were going to watch it, if it was your thing, watch it in the original Korean with the subtitles, because the dubbing acting is shocking, so don't watch it with the dubbing. There is an emergence of Korean culture worldwide, isn't there?
I think it's the most phenomenal thing, of course, Parasite winning the Oscar for Best Picture. And I think for the longest time that Korean culture was isolated, or I should say strictly within primarily South Korea. BTS, of course, the worldwide musical phenomenon. Coldplay just recorded a song with BTS, and that was to benefit Coldplay. BTS even bigger around the world. So they're certainly having this cultural moment. I think Parasite and K-pop, the music, has paved the way. But now Squid Game has come through, I would dare say, besting even BTS, which I know would be sacrilege to some music fans, but just in terms of the sheer numbers of people who are taking it in. But for some reason, and I think there are some reasons that are clear, certain plights that are taking place societally in South Korea are replicated in the United Kingdom, are replicated in the United States, are replicated around the world. The two big themes, I think, are this distinction between the super haves and the have-nots, and this idea that no matter who you are, almost with the exception of this very rarefied air, we all are debtors. We all owe people money. And what people do here to try to square their debts is extraordinary.
I mean, Netflix must be over the moon, you'd think. However, it's not all good news for them, because they're currently being sued because of the show's popularity.
Holly, this is really phenomenal. An internet service provider in South Korea is saying to Netflix, so many people are watching the show in South Korea, it is using too much bandwidth, more than we had devoted to your service, and you need to pay us more, because basically other parts of our internet service are being compromised because everybody's downloading and watching this. It's a problem, I guess, we call them champagne problems here. Netflix must be happy with those numbers. I don't know if the lawsuit will get anywhere, but the internet company is serious, saying, frankly, it's taking too much of their bandwidth to very hungry audiences, particularly for the show.
It's made some big stars as well, some big new Korean stars for us.
Particularly its leading lady, exactly right, Philip, has in fact become a star, a social media phenomenon, adding 13 to 15 million followers in just 3 weeks. She's also signed, her name is Jung Yo-hun, a fashion deal. And again, one thing that keeps the costs down, initially shooting the show, is, nobody worldwide were familiar with these actors. Some were slightly known in South Korea, but they were not well known anywhere else.
Can I ask you, we're going to be speaking to Dr Nilufar about this in just a moment, but over there in the States, what's the feeling there? Is it being shown to, I mean, obviously it's got an age limit on it, but are younger children watching it? Is it a problem out there?
My son is 14, and he found a way to watch it. I think a lot of, teens and others, it's this type of thing now where it feeds upon itself. I think this violence is so, to me, extraordinary that a lot of people kind of tune out. They can only take so much. It is funny, the topic of it being sort of too hot to handle isn't what people are discussing, and this is very typically Hollywood. They're talking more about the success and the phenomenon of it rather than the potential harms that might come with it.
All right.
Sam, thank you very much indeed.
You.
Well, we're going to contemplate now and look at the psychological issues, whether or not you should stop your children from watching the show. And we've got Nilufar Ahmed here. Nilufar, hi, good morning. Thank you for joining us. The schools are warning parents to stop the children watching it after pupils have been mimicking its violent scenes. John Bramston Primary School in Ilford in Essex said that children pretending to shoot each other was not appropriate or acceptable. Sandown School in Deal, Kent had extra lessons on the dangers of watching content that was not age appropriate in response to the show's popularity. There have been schools that have sent letters to parents regarding age concerns over it. Is this something we should worry about? Or, I mean, my parents were terrified when I watched the Amityville Horror and stuff like that, thinking that it was going to, sort of mess me up. And I don't think it did.
I think that it's very difficult to moderate what children can and can't do, especially as they're a little bit older and become teenagers. They'll find a way. And that's what social media has created, spaces and bubbles that people can access that material. So if you do have children that are watching this or really want to watch it, it's important to have those communication, have those conversations about what this program is about, why they want to watch it. Is it peer pressure? Is it really wanting to know about the story? And if children are watching it, have those discussions about what the program is depicting, the extreme levels of violence, and that actually that level of violence is fictional. It's not real.
And so, like, as a parent, I mean, if a child is watching that level of violence, like, does it cause damage in some way? How does it impact a child's brain that, I mean, as an adult, I don't want to see it because I know I'll keep thinking about it. It will have an effect on me. But is it worse for a child?
There's lots of research that shows that children who watch violent programs sleep less well than children who don't have exposure to those kind of material. So it does affect children's sleep, which of course will impact everything else. It'll impact their performance at school, how well they're feeling, their interaction with their peers. So we do have research that shows that. But it's not the only thing. So if you're watching something violent, it doesn't mean that you will necessarily go out and be more violent. There is a correlation. Children who watch violent programs may display more aggressive behaviors, but that can be mediated by things like having conversations with children, understanding, getting them to think more empathically. So if this was real, if you saw your friend being hit, how would you feel about that? So creating more real conversations.
You mentioned peer pressure a moment ago, and I imagine for many parents that is a real issue. Their kids are talking about it in school. Their friends may have been allowed to watch it. There'll be clips online, TikTok or YouTube and places like that where you can actually have a look at things like that. So what do you do in that respect? Because there's a huge FOMO here. If you've got the only child in school that's not allowed to watch it.
Having conversations really important, because we know from lots of research, we know from conversations with young people that children will find a way. Young people will find a way to watch this. Their friends will download things. There's lots of access to material online. So even if you don't have the subscription to Netflix, there are ways of accessing this material. So understanding what your children are watching is really important, understanding why they're watching this, and having really clear discussions about the consequences of violence. So using it almost as a teachable moment. There are more themes in Squid Game than just the violence. There are themes of betrayal, there are themes of friendship. How far would you go if you were in a pickle, if you were really struggling? Would you put your life at risk? Would you put the life of loved ones at risk?
And of course, you have to stress it is a 15. I mean, children or younger than that shouldn't be watching it in the first place. But we all know the reality of that.
It is extremely violent, very graphic.
Thank you both. Thank you very much.